What's happening? Welcome to the Matt Bernier Show, part of the In the Money Media Network. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. Today is Thursday, March the 23rd, 2023. It's episode 153 of the pod. However you listen, thank you for doing so. Many ways to find the show: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, InTheMoneyPodcast.com, YouTube, you name it. Basically anywhere you consume content, you can find it. Don't look that hard. Wherever you do listen, though, please rate, review, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, thumbs up, thumbs down. Make sure the bell icon is lit up so you get notified when new content has been uploaded to the In the Money Media channel. I am in New Orleans getting ready for the Louisiana Derby. I am on site with FanDuel TV. First day is down and out of the way. Thursday is done. It is 10 after 7 on Thursday night. We've got 9 minutes left in the second half of Michigan State and K-State. I tweeted and I had made the bet live at halftime. Michigan State plus 4.5. They are currently down 1. Connecticut, I have winning the title in the FanDuel internal contest. They are up 17 at halftime over Arkansas. And later on this evening, I say later on, it's only going to be an hour and a half from now, I have Tennessee -5 against Florida Atlantic in the Sweet 16. So it's nice to be checking out some hoops. It helps pass the time on some of these road trips. I wish I were home, but if I've got to be on the road, excuse me, might as well take in some good hoops and take in some good racing. And that's what most of you are here for, if not all of you. 3 100-point Kentucky Derby prep races run on Saturday. The Louisiana Derby, the Jeff Ruby Stakes, the UAE Derby. I'm going to go out of order chronologically because the UAE Derby is the first one that will take place. I will go over that very briefly last, and I'm going to just preface it by saying very briefly, simply because I don't believe that you can just with a blanket statement throw out races based on things that have happened in the past. But the facts are the UAE Derby has not been an especially productive race when it comes to the Kentucky Derby. That doesn't mean that this year won't produce something, but I'm going to, knowing that I want to keep this to 30, 35 minutes, 40 absolute max, I'm going to keep that at the very end and just very briefly touch on it. We'll dive into the Louisiana Derby, and we'll do a bit of a dive into the Jeff Ruby Stakes before wrapping up with the UAE Derby. As always, questions, comments, concerns beneath the video player on YouTube or on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. The Louisiana Derby, the race that I am down here for, nothing is official, but I am going to talk about the race. I'll mention him going through it, but I am approaching it as if Tappett's Conquest is not running. There are whispers that they may bypass this race to run in New York in the Wood Memorial. Now, again, we'll find out if that actually comes to fruition. By the time many of you are listening to this, we will know one way or the other. If I were involved, I would run him now. But obviously, I'm not involved. The Wood, maybe it's a softer spot. Maybe he needs more time. Maybe it's for a number of reasons. I'd run him back because I was as disappointed as anyone initially following the Risen Star. But you go back and you watch that race with a little bit of a, not a kinder eye, but just objectively calling it for what it is. He had a miserably wide trip, and he was still, kind of boxing on at the end. No, he wasn't as good as Angel of Empire, but the race probably wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was at first. So, long-winded way, especially if we talk about a horse that may not even run Saturday. But I will briefly just make a quick comment about him. Oh, and for full transparency, I was going to pick him again in this race. But it sounds like there's a reasonable chance he does not run, and he goes to New York. So, we'll go over the Louisiana Derby, we will go over the Jeff Ruby, and we will briefly touch on the UAE Derby on this week's show. Louisiana Derby, race number 12 on a 15-race card. Excuse me. Gabby and I were laughing on the set on Thursday, because not only are there 15 on Saturday, there are 15 on Sunday. Holy Jesus. A lot of racing. If you still need to get your fix after Saturday and Sunday at the fairgrounds, I don't know what to tell you, because you're going to have, what, 3/4 of a race an hour for 2 days from one facility. I'm not even factoring in simulcast. Anyway, race number 12, scheduled post 5:42 Central, 6:42 East. I guess that would be 3:42 on the West Coast. I'm going to go right in post position order. We're going to breeze through knowing that we've still got the Jeff Ruby and the UAE Derby. The one Shopper's Revenge for Asmussen, I think he's actually pretty interesting in here. The race that he comes out of is not particularly fast on the Beyer scale. On the time form scale, it's a little bit kinder. He got out of the gate a little bit slow in that run at Oaklawn on February the 18th. You know, given his wide trip compared to the winner's ground-saving trip, airtime squeezed up the wood, saved every inch that day. Shopper's Revenge becomes an intriguing, he's going to be a price. He can't help but be a price, I guess. I think he's not impossible in here. And if Tappett's Conquest doesn't go, I have an idea of who I'm going to go with as an alternative. But this horse certainly is at least in the picture as a potential selection in here. He's by Stop Charging Maria. We all know what she was capable of on her best day. Breeders' Cup Distaff winner, I believe, off the top of my head. But I think Shopper's Revenge is a little bit sneaky in here at a big number. They'll all need to beat Instant Coffee. And I apologize if I keep taking breaths and beats and whatnot. I'm trying to finish my dinner as we are doing this. Instant Coffee is a grinder. He just sort of, it takes a while for the engine to get warmed up, but once the engine is warmed up, he runs all day. That is good as far as distance is concerned, in theory, but this will be a significant stretch out for him. He's gone 1 mile and a 16th 3 times in his career. Now he's got to go out to 1 mile and 3/16, and we haven't seen him since the middle of January. The good news is the field that he defeated in the Lecomte just continues to flatter him. He looks better and better as each race comes and goes. So I do not at all think he's a vulnerable kind of short number in here. He's just not my cup of tea. If he's 2-1 on the line. I don't think, I haven't priced it out, but I don't think I would want anything shorter than 3 in a race like this. And he's almost certainly going to be shorter than that. He might be 8-5. So Instant Coffee, most likely winner. I won't argue that. I think there are going to be more appealing prices elsewhere. Curly Jack, honest horse, nice horse. Not overly fast. I just think he's got his work cut out for him. Maybe underneath, but I would think that's a ceiling. Sun Thunder. The Ken McPeak barn is rolling along right now. Past few weeks, they've really taken their game to the next level. The Risen Star, this horse did make up a substantial amount of ground behind a hot pace. He had an absolutely dream trip down on the inside, a brilliant ride from BJ Hernandez, and he just flattened out at the very end. Now, Mike Joyce brought up something, a good point that I don't know that, I know I don't do a good enough job explaining this, and I know many others don't do a good enough job. When you say a dream trip, that almost implies, it almost carries a negative connotation, because I think many people interpret that as saying, oh, well, you don't think he's going to do it again. And while that may be true, that doesn't mean that he can't run well. Will he be able to scrape paint and get that sort of in-out trip and then back down to the rail that he pulled in the Risen Star? I mean, that seems unlikely. But he's a horse that continues to take steps forward, and he ran well that day. So to just automatically, throw it out there and say, well, he had a great trip last time out, he must not be any good. I think that's a common misconception that a lot of folks make, or just assume when they hear, someone on TV, or they hear a podcast or any kind of analysis or a written piece that, oh, dream trip. Well, that doesn't mean that the horse didn't run well. It just means that they had some things go well for them. I don't think he is dependent on a dream trip to run well. He definitely took a step forward. And again, the McPeak barn is just cooking along right now. Disarm, I do think longer is going to be better for this horse. This is another Asmussen trainee. I guess my biggest issue would be he also had a pretty good trip. The difference is he left a lot to be desired in my eyes. To be fair, that was his first start since the beginning of August as a 2-year-old. So he had every right to need that race. I don't know that I love him, but I could understand why people would be attracted or drawn to him at 10-1 on the line with Rosario aboard. This feels like A, the wise guy horse, and B, the most likely alternative for me if Tappett's Conquest doesn't go. That is Kings Barnes, as I'm getting a work email. Kings Barnes has done nothing wrong. By the way, Kings Barnes, I don't know how many folks are aware of this. I have been told by multiple people. Kings Barnes is a town, village, whatever you'd like to call it, in Scotland. I have been told by multiple people that also I was fortunate to play the old course at St. Andrews a few years ago. And, you know, talking to golf nerds and some of you that don't care about golf, you know, this is going to bore you to tears probably. Multiple people have told me that Kings Barnes, the links course there, is the best that there is in Scotland, period. I don't know about Ireland. I know Ireland's got some proper top-notch courses, but I've had more than a handful, and I'm not exaggerating. It hasn't been one or two. It's probably been 6 or 7 people that have said, did you play Kings Barnes? So those of you that may be golf junkies and you may be going over to Scotland or you have an opportunity to play over there or you live over there, I've heard that Kings Barnes is a fabulous, fabulous golf course. The racehorse looks like he could be fabulous also. I know he hasn't beaten anything when it comes to the caliber of competition, but my God, he's looked good. I thought he was green but good in the debut. I thought he was green and outstanding in the first start against Winners going 2 turns. That was at Tampa. He didn't beat anything, but the way that he opened up on that field makes me think that there's a hell of a lot more in the tank. Flavien Prat is attracted to take the ride. Todd has done this in the past. I would hope, when you look at the way the race sets up, there's not a great deal of speed. He's got to be at least part of the early pace. I'm not saying he's going to be cutting out the fractions, but he's got to be close to it. The real question is how short does he go? How much money does he take? Because if you told me that you could get 6, I think 6, and I'm just spitballing here. I haven't priced it all out. I think 6 is reasonable. I think 5 might be reasonable. I think Kings Barnes is a prime win contender in a spot like this. He gives off the vibes of a quality animal. And even if I don't end up picking him, I hope he runs well. Because I think for a 3-year-old division that I keep saying, I'm waiting for somebody to step up, maybe he's the sort of fresh face. Cagliostro. I thought he ran outstanding in that most recent start. I thought he ran really well 2 starts back when he broke his maiden at the fairgrounds. Couldn't quite beat Dennington, who is also in this race. But I thought obviously it represented a step forward. My concern for both Cagliostro and Dennington, we might as well tackle both of them at the same time. Dennington, you can say he just needed the class relief because he ran into instant coffee and 2 fills and confidence game and yada, yada, yada. It was still a career top by a pretty fair margin. It was also first time with Lasix on. I know David Aragona's done a great job of laying out stats of trainers Lasix on versus Lasix off. And McPeak is one of the better ones with that sort of thing. But I'm more concerned, not even so much about that, because Lasix come off for this, obviously. The idea that both he and Cagliostro took such significant steps forward that I would be leery to take them. I don't want to say at a short price because I don't think either of them would be short prices. All I will say is throw out some signs of caution when looking at those two, because that run on February the 18th was very clearly the best either of them have ever run. Single Ruler, I think, is a good horse. He plugged along at the end of the Risen Star. I really did like that maiden score 2 starts back. These are the only 2 starts he's had blinkers on. He would just need to take such a substantial step forward and have others regress for him to be a major player, maybe underneath at a big number, but I'm not betting on it. Tappett's Conquest, again, if he goes, I think he is very live. If he doesn't go, I mean, frankly, I don't love the idea of running him in New York, but, maybe Brad Cox and company know a hell of a lot more than I do. I don't know. I still think the horse has ability. I'd like to see him run here. Even if he didn't win, I think he could absolutely run second or third, get points, and still move on going toward Louisville, but it is what it is. Dennington, we just touched on. Jace's Road. Jace's Road's a fascinating horse because if you take the gun runner, his gate to wire score, out of the PPs, he's not nearly good enough. You leave the gun runner in when he gets a comfortable lead, which he very well may again on Saturday. He's a player with a 90 buyer. I still think he needs to improve. I don't totally trust him. And I think he might get a little bit bet just purely because everyone's going to be looking at that pace scenario saying, isn't he controlling speed? Maybe he gets it done. He's not my favorite. And Baseline Beater. Paired up by her tops each of the last 2. Broke through with a big performance last time out. That was on the undercard. Maybe he jumps up again, but he would need, again, take such a substantial step forward and have others regress. I don't know that I love him as a win contender, but underneath, absolutely one to consider at 20 or 30 to 1. So there you have it, the Louisiana Derby. If Tappett's Conquest goes, I'll pick him. If he does not go, I'm probably between King's Barnes, Shopper's Revenge, Instant Coffee. Those 3. Any of you that have paid attention to me for long enough would know that I won't be going with Instant Coffee. So it's basically either the 6 or the 1 for me in the 12th from the fairgrounds on Saturday. I'm going over the Jeff Ruby Stakes, but there's 19.7 seconds left. K-State's up 2. Again, you'll all already know the result of this, but this is live as it's ongoing. The kid for Kansas State just decided to pull up from about 35 feet, back rimmed it. Now Michigan State with the ball. I don't frankly care who wins. I only need Michigan State to lose by no more than 4 points. 19.7 seconds might take 35 minutes, so I'll circle back. Worst case scenario, Michigan State scores and ties it, and the kid for Kansas State can't get a great look. I shouldn't say that. I mean, he cut through 3 or 4 different guys to get to the cup, but he just couldn't. Seeing the replay right now. That's annoying. All right, back to the horses. A lot to unpack. The regulation ends in a tie. My projection with my numbers projected a tie. Some idiot on Twitter is saying that that's dumb because you need to pick a team. I can't say what I want to go say, but you can probably gather a guess. And then Michigan State turns the ball over down 3 at the very end, and K-State runs down and makes a bucket to win by 5. Oh, dear. That's a devastating way to lose. Plus 4.5. I swear I'm almost done with the Jeff Ruby Stakes. All right, as I'm still licking my wounds from that disaster of an ending with the basketball game, the 12th at Turfway is the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Now, I guess I can give an absolute, not bare bones briefing on all of them, but I'm more interested in kind of just approaching it like this. Major dude, is trying a surface for the first time at a distance for the first time, and he's the 5-2 morning line favorite on the heels of a big win in the Kitten's Joy. He can certainly win. I don't want him. Funtastic, again, has never won without the lead, and he may make the lead in this spot, but he's going to have to deal with Maker's Candy just to his outside, so he's probably going to have to go faster than he's ever gone before. So I don't really want him. Maker's Candy I don't want. Bluebird's Over, I guess, is a little intriguing just because the two synthetic races were both victories to start the career. Congruent won the John Battaglia, the local prep for this race. We'll get to the runner-up in a moment. And Two Phils is also trying a surface for the first time. So all those short prices, I don't really want any of them. There are 3 horses that I'm really interested in. The 2, Scooby Quando, who was the runner-up in the Battaglia, behind Congruent. And you probably look at it and go, how could you really like a horse that was beaten 3.5 lengths and not like the other? Scooby Quando was buried in behind runners, loaded behind a wall of horses, had nowhere to go. Yes, Congruent was 100 wide, but he was able to continue on with his run. Scooby Quando, once he made the clear, he finished full of run. He finished with just a really, really strong kick at the end. That last race, I think, is far better than it may look on paper, and I think he's going to be maybe not quite 15, but he's going to be pretty darn close to it. I think he's got as good a chance as Congruent to win. The 3 event detail, I bet him and picked him in the Rebel. I said, I don't know if he can stand up on dirt, but I do know his 2 route races at Turfway I thought were both really good. And they put blinkers on this time around, which I think is a little bit intriguing. I like him at a number, 15-1 on the morning line. And then I think the horse that I'm leaning toward picking, not sure I'm totally there yet, but I'm leaning toward. It'll be one of these 3. It'll either be Scooby Quando, Event Detail, or the 11, Wadsworth. Wadsworth has paired up Beyer tops of 82. Both victories on the synthetic surface have been by open lengths. Defeated Scooby Quando by 2.5 last out. Got real green, real goofy down the lane. Swapped leads, but finished real strong. The gallop out was giant. His mom was really good, Dickinson. She was a grade 1 winning turf router. Quality Roads can do anything. Got to stretch out from a mile to a mile and an eighth here for the first time. But the 2 synth races are marked improvements over any of the dirt races prior. So, and he's got a little bit of tactical speed. So, they're racing outside of the hotel. If the 4 and the 5 hook up, the 11's got to just tuck in right behind, doesn't he? And I'm sure Two Phils probably isn't too far behind. But with this sort of, Bayou Turfway pick 5 that they're going to have on Saturday, I think I'm only using 3 horses. And they're 15-1, 15-1, and 8-1 on the morning line. Wadsworth, Scooby Quando, and Event Detail. Which one am I going to, put on top? I'm still kind of hemming and hawing a little bit. But those are the 3 that I'm most interested in. I'm going to fade the favorites in here, acknowledging any one of them can win. Absolutely. But 2-3-11 for me in the Jeff Ruby. Let's wrap up with the UAE Derby. And this is not even going to be a real analysis, but just a sort of a peek behind the curtain. We're going to do a little bit of a chalkboard segment on Friday on FanDuel TV, and it's basically, are you with or against the favorites? And the only thing I'll say about this UAE Derby, knowing that there are horses coming from all around the world to run in this spot, Cairo is the 5-2 morning line favorite for Aidan O'Brien. And sure, he's by Quality Road, but there's turf on the bottom. And, the dirt is still an unknown. And in most years, I would look at it and say, okay, well, Tall Boy wasn't very good in the United States. And he goes over there and he wins the UAE 2000 Guineas by a length. So, all right, well, clearly softer company over there. As far as the dirt is concerned, it looks like you've probably got pretty good Japanese horses going. By the way, Ajiz, he was nothing over here in the U.S. He goes over there and wins a race by 2.5 lengths or 2.25 lengths. But more importantly, Worcester is in this race. And Worcester, I don't know what you want to do with him big picture. But say what you will, he has run fast races. He's got a 98 in the Bob Lewis running third. He had a 96 when he finished second in a maiden race 2 starts back going shorter. I know he's an 0 for 3 maiden right now, but he's probably one of the fastest U.S.-based horses that has gone over to run in this race maybe ever. Part of me is at least looking at it saying, if someone's going to beat him, maybe the distance gets him beat. I don't know. But if the distance doesn't get him beat and he runs anything close to what he's been running, these other horses are going to have to be pretty damn good. Because he's a mid-90 buyer type. And we haven't seen American horses like that go over there and run in this race in quite some time. So that's all I'm going to sort of chime in about this race. I would be against the O'Brien runner at a short number simply because I have no idea if he can run on dirt, and Worcester's actually a fast dirt horse. If the distance beats him, the distance beats him. But one of these other horses is going to need to run a big race to beat him if he runs his race. So there you have it. Looks at the 3 Derby preps on Saturday. I apologize for all of the interspersed college hoops talk. I have to get off Twitter for the evening because it's just like you're bashing your head against the wall trying to just speak logically. Again, it goes like not everything needs to be win or lose. It's not that simple. A little nuance goes a long way. The people that speak in absolutes, it's just like, and not only do you speak in absolutes, but then you start belittling somebody and you're like, oh, you're an idiot, you're an asshole because you didn't pick a team. Zip my lip. On that note, let me know your comments about any of these 3 races beneath the video player on YouTube or on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. Please rate, review, subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs down, bell icon lit up if you're over on YouTube. We will be on all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday from the fairgrounds on FanDuel TV, going over all of these races and then some. It's a great day of racing. Things are really heating up. 100-point preps. The winners get 100 points to the Kentucky Derby. The runner-ups arguably get enough to at least be on the bubble for the first Saturday in May, but many of them, that'll be enough to get them in. This is when the rubber meets the road. We'll find out who the first, assuming no injuries, who the first confirmed runners for the Run for the Roses will be by Saturday night. I'm looking forward to the racing here. Again, stay tuned with us over there on FanDuel TV. And I will be back next week. We will do a brief sort of look back at what we saw this upcoming weekend. And then we'll look ahead to next week's racing, including the Arkansas Derby. I will be at Oaklawn Park for that. And the Florida Derby down at Gulf Street. Until then, best of luck. However you play, whatever you play, and wherever you play. This has been episode 153 of the Matt Bernier Show.